Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from lunch and from workshops. Myself, I went around and looked a little bit at everything, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. I feel almost like if I was a cocaine dealer getting high on my own supply, because I'm kind of trying to produce and inhale at the same time. How's your experience been? Great day so far? Hell yeah, that's what I want to hear. Some more energy here. Fantastic. So, you're all a piece of art, and I can substantiate that by inviting this is going to be an afternoon of favorites for me. So my favorite photographer, German photo artist Tom Solo. Give it up for Tom Solo. Hi Tom, welcome to Stockholm. Tom is officially going to make you art, and his artwork, the ones that have been at my house, see his art on my walls, and you'll also be part of that if you go to the Tom Solo studio, and you can have these photos later on. So maybe in an art exhibition in a galaxy far, far away, you will be smiling just like you're smiling right now and trying to look very intelligent. And if you could all wave at Tom like this, so if everybody waves at Tom. Awesome. Thank you very much.
My studio.
Yeah, come to Tom's studio outside and you'll be commemorated forever. So these are some of the things that are happening in the studio right now. Thank you very much. And also welcome to all our guests from SIME HR Summit. I know you're going to leave a little bit later in the afternoon, so if 100 people leave, it's not because somebody on stage says something boring, it's because there's another program going on in parallel. We've had a very fine tradition here in the Nordics of going to other countries and taking their gold and beating their men and stealing their women. This is our proud tradition.
The earth was made from the Yme's flesh. They made hills out of his bones.
We've built a new boat. We can go west. Wherever they come from, they're not welcome in my kingdom. This belongs to me.
So, and we're still doing it, and we're starting in Norway as usual. And this time it's in media, and it's in more and more areas of digital ventures. And I travel around the world and speak with a lot of media companies, and everywhere I go, whether if it's in Arabic country or if it's in Argentina, they say, well, we looked at the Schibsted, and then they show some slides on what Schibsted are doing in digital. So I'm very, very proud to, for the first time, invite Rolf-Erik Ryssdal, the CEO of Schibsted, to SIME stage. Very welcome, new Vikings. Welcome to SIME.
Thank you.
So as I said, I go around a lot, and I always hear people using Schibsted as a case for digital transformation. So I wanted to start there. When you look at sort of the media industry, what are some of the key things that you see in the transforming industry when looking ahead?
Well, first let me say I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I lived in Stockholm for 8 years, so I love this city. And Stockholm is a very, very important place for Schibsted. It's a place Schibsted started in the 90s in Sweden, and it's really become, our home market together with Norway. And what excites me is that as the industry is going through this huge transformation, and people are talking about, well, paper circulation is going down, etc., etc. What excites me is that we're actually reaching more people than ever before. So if you look at Aftonbladet, for instance, they reach more than 3 million Swedes on a daily basis. That gives a lot of interesting opportunities.
Mm. And if you look at your strategy, if you devise your own strategy, you're growing the classified business all over the world, you're growing personal finance in more and more markets, you're making acquisitions, you're launching Omni. What is the when you sit in the cockpit, how does the roadmap look ahead for you?
It's exciting. We've set ourselves some pretty hairy ambitions. In classifieds, we've said that we want to become a global leader. So
that means beating eBay and beating...
Well, it means beating them in the markets that we're in, at least. Mm. And we've done so in France, for instance. Mm. So what we've done is that we've taken this the Swedish concept. I was responsible in Aftonbladet for trying to launch Finn, That was not very successful.
No.
But we then acquired Blocket, which turned out to be a very good thing. And that Swedish concept, developed by a local entrepreneur in Skåne, is now spreading, has now been spread to more than 30 countries. So to become a global leader, thank you. So we're hoping, to take even more Swedish concepts out in the world. But to become a global leader in classifieds is on the one hand. Then on the media house, we're equally ambitious, because what we're saying is that we want to create digital media houses in world class. So be really top of the pops when it comes to creating those. And I'm excited then, and here it's natural for me again to talk about Aftonbladet and what they have achieved with their web edition and their mobile, and it's actually a quite similar story in Norway.
With
so those are
VG.
with VG. So those are kind of lighthouses that are leading the development. So we want to be there in front also there and create digital media houses in the world class. So that's quite ambitious.
Then who in that vision? Who's your real competitor?
Well, our competitors, that's the exciting thing about this, because it's changing all the time. So, of course, we have a competition with Bonnier and other players in Sweden. But if you look at where is the big ad dollars going for the time being, it's, of course, to the US, to Facebook and Google. And if you look at our Swedish position, then, of course, Web TV is emerging strongly. There's a lot of new competitors there. So there are many different competitors.
Is TV as good on web TV as on normal TV?
Yeah, I think it's actually better. It's even better accessible. But so in order to compete with these new competitors, such as Facebook and Google, we need to be much more aggressive when it comes to investing in digital competence. And if I can do a little bit of commercial for us, we've launched a site called shipsdigital.com, where we're looking to hire the best talent within digital.
You can do a little bit commercial.
Thanks.
Because everybody else has done that so far. And it's so funny that we've been seeing the 3 leading media houses from the region. Everybody speaks about talent. And then I went to the HR Summit, and I just shared that everybody seems to think that talent is the most important thing. And then I heard one more perspective, and that was luck. So how do you do to attract the right talent? And what do you look for in people?
But I think then to talk a little bit about Stockholm again, if you look at where are the big cities outside the US where there's a lot of development happening in the digital world, internet entrepreneurs, I think Stockholm is really one of the most interesting hubs in Europe, perhaps together with London and with Berlin. So there's a lot of talent here, and there is a critical mass of people developing interesting businesses, and we want to take part of that. That's why we have Schibsted Growth Media, which are working together with many of these entrepreneurs.
So do I understand you correctly that you want to harvest talent and sort of the advancement of these markets, and then you want to take these concepts to less developed markets that are much larger?
Yeah, so when it comes to talent, I'm happy to see that both in Norway and Sweden, we seem to have a high standing when it comes to students, etc. It's quite attractive to work for us. So we are in a good position there. That's, of course, when we're moving outside of Scandinavia, we need a bit more time to establish our position there. So I think it's very important for us to get a lot of those young, smart people here in the Nordic to work for us. And then in addition to that, we're also working to attract entrepreneurs.
And I had Kjell Åmot, your predecessor. He was here 2005, and he said that we always try to put the smartest people on the new opportunities, not on the old problems. Yeah. I thought that was an interesting way of thinking. If you would describe if there's a Schibsted way or a Schibsted culture, how does that culture nurtures entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs?
Well, what we're trying to stimulate, we have as one of our core values, we have innovation. So we try to really stimulate that. And we're doing that by, well, we have innovation prizes, but we're also doing it by actually encouraging people to try new things. And if they fail, it's okay. And let's move on and do other things. So when I was working at the Aftonbladet for 8 years, we did a lot of launches during that time. And we talked a lot about those who succeeded externally. And then internally, we tried to learn from what was not so successful.
But is it really okay to fail?
Yeah, I think so, as long as you don't bet the whole farm every time you fail. So I think that if you look at our history, there are many examples of things that we haven't done right. Let me give an example again, where I was involved again in a failure, and that was in Norway. We tried to launch a search engine to compete with Google.
Kvasir.
Yeah, it was Sesam actually.
No, Sesam, sorry,
You know,
Sesam.
we spent 500 million before we closed it down.
Yeah, and I asked Kjell Åmotte that when he said, I said, so do you want to compete with Google? He said, yes, that's correct. Are you crazy? He said, yes, I think so, and I think you have to be that. So that was his
but I think if you look at the
response to it.
analysis there, we said that, well, search is going to be huge. Google is going to take 90%. If you look at it, it's become even bigger than we thought, and Google had taken an even larger share. So the analysis was right, but the thing we did wrong was that we underestimate kind of Google, or we couldn't compete with them. So what we should have done, I think it was right thing to launch, but I think we should have stopped it earlier. So I think in this turbulent media world, you got to be able to experiment and launch a lot of new things. Then it's the difficult thing for the managers to say, really, when are we pulling the plug? Because to kill your darlings, as they say, that's a very tough question. So when we are launching Blocket in the many, many new countries, that is really the hard thing. When do you decide that enough is enough? And then but after a while, you get better at that as well. You develop benchmarking techniques, etc.
But I mean, you come from a newspaper background.
Yeah.
There you could be innovative, but in a very limited space. Well, it's a football edition, or it's a supplement for this and that. Now it could be selling mortgages for boats in Malaysia. I mean, sort of, where is the limits, and where is the sort of, what can you not do, and what is within your strategy?
No, that's a good question. So, but we have these two main pillars. So, digital media houses, world class. Look at Aftonbladet, great example, what they're doing. And then, I think classifieds, same thing really. We're sticking to classifieds and outside Scandinavia, that's mainly what we're developing. And then we're using, especially Stockholm, as a laboratory to experiment with new things, to see, well, are there new concepts that we could take out? And of course, the people who are doing that, they're
from
following it very
Compriser
closely.
to Lendo to Omni to...
Those are, you could say, those are marketplaces that used to be offline that have now moved online, and we're moving with them.
And when do you buy something and say, these guys are smarter than we are, let's buy them? Maybe they're not smarter, but at least they're moving faster. Or when do you say, we can do this ourselves, just throw some money at it? And when do you kill the darlings, when you're not sure which one of it is?
Well, I think you need to develop benchmarks. So we stopped, for instance, in classifieds in Greece when we saw that we didn't get traction and growth, and then we set up some, goals of where we're supposed to be after 6 months. And if you're not there, then you give it another few months, and if you're not there,
okay. So you launch a market. You see, if we're not there, then we pull the plug.
Yeah. And then I think when it comes to the growth media, I think there's a lot of smart people out there, and many are smarter than me at least. So I think then it's a good thing to see what. I think if you look at the growth media, it's a mixture really. We're doing something organically, and then we're saying, well, for the most recent example is Compriser. Those guys have a head start in the important insurance market. Let's see if we can acquire them and work together with them.
And if you look at sort of what you lose sleep over, there's a lot of potential. Is there anything that keeps you awake at night?
Well, yeah. In the morning, my dog starts a little bit be restless, and then my wife kicks me up, and then I have to go out. So then I lose sleep, but mostly I sleep soundly. But to answer a bit more seriously, I would say that I think in this business you got to be a little bit paranoid. You got to watch what are happening, what's the development, and is there something that we haven't thought of? We need to follow the development. So it's really, you got to have confidence in what you're doing, but you also got to be a little bit paranoid. Watch what are other people doing, what are the big things happening, for instance, in the US, etc., etc.
So it's like paranoid with confidence. I think that's a good good takeaway. What if you look at digital, and I spoke to Lucas Axon from Bonnier about that. Internet is very powerful in satisfying user needs, but it also often have weaker business models than, for instance, so the phone book is a stronger business model than Hitta, for instance, at least in terms of share sales volume. How do you see the newspapers being affected by digital? And how do you see the online being affected by the mobile? Do you think that, or by the web TV, do you cannibalize or do you add on to your media over time?
Well, I think since you mentioned my predecessor Kjell Åmotte, let me give him some credit, because I think some of the better things that Schibsted has done is that they've been able to, they allow their businesses to compete with themselves and cannibalize on themselves. So if you look at classifieds, Finn, for instance, was really allowed to outcompete their own newspapers. I think if you look at Aftonbladet and VG, the web edition started competing with newspaper. And I think, you know, many people said, well, you guys are stupid. But I think if we hadn't done it, someone else would have done it. Then I think both Aftonbladet and VG are again driving mobile heavily, which are kind of then reducing the growth on the web, of course. So I think you need to have a mindset where you're saying that what's the development, and we got to go out and take those positions, and we got to, even if that means cannibalizing with yourself.
And another recurring theme, both in what I've seen myself and when I've interviewed a lot of the speakers here, purpose comes back. The why you're doing something is more important than the how or the what. What is the purpose of, I mean, purpose of a newspaper I can understand, a media house I can understand as well, but what is the purpose when you become a very, very diverse portfolio of opportunities? Is there a purpose, and in that case, what is the purpose?
Well, I think you said it yourself for the media houses. The journalism will continue to be very important also in the future. When it becomes more and more digital, people will still ask for quality content. So that important role in society will continue to be there. And then what we're saying for Schibsted is that we're trying to create the media of tomorrow, today. And we're doing that by empowering our consumers. So if you look at all our sites, whether it's Aftonbladet, Svenska Dagbladet, or the Lendo, the classifieds, we're actually empowering people in their daily life. We're empowering the consumers.
Yeah, Lena K from Svenska Dagbladet and now with Schibsted, she described it as that you're creating the town square that used to be in the village, where you could go and date and buy and trade and get gossip and news and so forth.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'll tell a little bit of a funny story there, because we have in France taken, that is the biggest Blocket copy ever.
Yeah,
they got 7 billion page views per month. It's, you know, it's just incredible. But anyway, that
was in a market where eBay was so strong, so that everybody said nothing can touch eBay, and you just went in there and
then so Le Monde, they voted 3-4 pages to it recently, and then there were some they do it the French way with you know, professors in philosophy and history to trying to analyze the phenomenon, and they compared the marketplace to the French old market squares 1,000 years back. And the funny thing was that also that, you know, in France, the state is really the nation builder, as opposed to Spain and Germany, where you have strong regions. But in France, one of these professors said that there's a big problem because the state is failing his role at building the nation. But fortunately, here Le Bon Coin comes in and helps build the French nation. So I was very happy. I immediately phoned up the manager there and told him that, you know, you can call your parents and tell them you're not only a successful internet entrepreneur, you actually have a purpose of building the French society.
And what is I've heard some strange stories of what's being bought and sold on Blocket. Do you have any war stories you can share?
Well,
any
you
sort
know,
of strange
yeah,
things?
you have these things with people who park their cars in the middle of the forest when they drive off the road, and they never pick it up, and they put it on Blocket to have someone else go and pick it. I remember there was a guy down there in Italy who said that he put up this big picture of an old donkey. He said he would sell it, but could also offer to trade it for a car. And you know, people are selling all kind of different things.
The Blocket is truly a remarkable service. It's almost like when you put something up on Blocket, it starts ringing immediately. It's almost scary what traction it gets. And at the same time, you have a lot of other newspapers doing a little classified, and it doesn't take off. And you have a lot of different media houses wanting to transform, and they're saying exactly the same thing as you were saying, or versions of it, but they're not transforming. What do you think is the secret sauce? What is sort of, you peel the onion and try to find what is the difference between the mutation that you're doing and some sort of scratching on the surface that other organizations are doing?
No, I think you got to have a culture of innovation, and then I think you need to allow from the top to let things happen and encourage them. And also, as I mentioned previously, you can't be afraid to move on. You got to cannibalize other businesses, even if it's your own business. And you got to really put attention to the people who are doing that.
So if I ask you what your core business is, what would the answer be?
Well, you know, we're in the. I would still say that we're in the media houses and the classifieds businesses, and we're transforming them for the future.
Last but not least, if we're sitting here a year from now, you have a snug smile, almost arrogantly looking out, and everything has gone much better than what you thought it would happen. What things needs to happen then?
Well, you know, I don't think there's any big secret or any abracadabra to that. It's really, then I think, if I'm going to sit here and be very proud, then we have achieved, you know, the strategies that I laid out. So now I think we've moved even further in terms of transforming the media houses to really top class. And I think we've been able to take even more #1 positions in the classifieds markets around the world. So then I would be happy.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next year. Give it up for Rolf Erik. Thank you.